On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I discuss what can I do to make her stay. Let's go. This is Industry Relations, a podcast at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson. In today's tough real estate market, keeping buyers motivated and loyal is key. Now is the time to leverage the power of One Home by CoreLogic and the best-in-class data and client collaboration experience it brings. Seamlessly integrated into Matrix, One Home delivers unbeatable engagement and one of the highest customer satisfaction scores amongst the top 10 national real estate portals. More impressively, One Home leads the pack by keeping users coming back with the highest repeat visits. With One Home's invite-only access, agents can provide their clients a truly exceptional experience. Don't forget to remind your MLS members to try this great value-added benefit. If your MLS hasn't added One Home yet, please reach out to your CoreLogic rep. Thanks again to CoreLogic for sponsoring the Industry Relations podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. In the year 2025, this is your co-host, the Notorious Rob, and as always, my amazing co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson.
Hola, Rob.
Hola.
We made it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was a couple of was a little dodgy there. I mean, who knows if the whole industry would survive, if we would have a podcast to actually talk about, an industry to talk about on this podcast. We might have had to switch to prepping, right?
Industry's one thing, like New Year's Day, terrorist attacks, and and then the Sean Ryan show was talking about UAPs, and some crazy shit went down. Oh, I can't cuss. First 5 minutes, no cussing. I gotta time it.
We have to put a timer on and go beep, and then all of a sudden, the first F-bomb drops, right?
That's right, the pirate mouth that everyone hates, by the way. But we made it. Here we are. Things are getting back to semi-normal. I feel like we've went through 3 weeks of zero productivity, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird, isn't it? You try to get back on doing some work, but everybody else, whatever you need to get done, somebody's gone, so you can't really get it done. It's like you might as just surrender to the couch or whatever else it can be.
Which I did, by the way. I just want to make that clear. My diet has been absolute crap, and I need to get back to it in the new year. So, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Do you believe in that?
I mean, I'm still just trying to work on my health, right? So that's always one of those things. And then, I'm also trying to kind of just subtract a bit, meaning just get a bit, take away some distractions, kind of like minimalize, different things. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, get rid of shit, try not to acquire more shit. But we've already cussed, so I guess you broke the seal there, bro.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the name of minimizing to less, here you are about to put on an event in a couple of weeks.
Well, if you're watching the podcast, you can see I've got these 3x5 cards set up for the different sessions, and it's kind of like, it reminds me of like the Saturday Night Live thing where they have the sketches, and right before them they're gonna pull one or add one or pull one or add one. So kind of working on that.
So just to clarify, is this your event, or are you just helping someone else put on it?
No, we're partnering with Presta, right? So I think from Amy and Chris's standpoint, I mean, I think they thought that I could, in Giant Steps, I've got Dan, obviously, and Stacy and Ohan, and they'll be participating in this.
Okay, so it's a Presta Giant Steps.
I think they thought that I could help out with Presta team and Giant Steps, but help out with the content, help out with the promotion,
of course,
that kind of stuff. So we'll
I'm just reminding you that we've been talking about doing the LobbyCon for a few years, and we never put that together. But
well, I think one of the things we're talking about doing, and I love the title you have for your talk, which is the I'll reveal it here on the show, the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Where you give a presentation, we kind of segue that into a kind of an industry relations live
almost
type of discussion, and then hopefully get some audience participation.
Yeah,
so
we should record that and then spin it up. As an episode.
I'll have to talk to the AV guys about that.
Yeah, because obviously that week we're gonna have a tough time recording.
Yeah.
So maybe that becomes our special episode.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea.
All right. In any event, there is stuff going on. And, as always, we get together before recording and say, oh, what do you want to talk about? And unfortunately, like really over the holidays, basically, the only thing that's really blown up is the whole Phoenix situation, which we've already discussed, at some length. But I mean, we could always discuss it a little bit further. And the latest that I saw was there's a new lawsuit filed by some agents in Louisiana against, Louisiana Realtors, NAR, other locals, again, claiming that 3-way agreement is a problem. I read the complaint. I don't think it's worth getting into it. It's pretty bad. It's done pro se, meaning the agents representing, themselves. Like there's no lawyer involved, or if there is, they're behind the scenes. And the whole complaint looks like it might have been written by ChatGPT or something. It just wasn't great. But the signal is that there's like yet another lawsuit, right? On top of the Hardy lawsuit, which was a joke, on top of the other lawsuit. And then you have the Phoenix situation. Of course, we had Alabama Realtors, last year. So it's just like all sort of coming to a head, right? So thought we might start with that.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I have discussions with some other people about it, and like, the way it was phrased to me, I mean, is this Phoenix's, fuck around and find out moment with this, right? I mean, and that started me thinking, like, is there another way that they could have approached this where they could actually get it done, but maybe not in the way they did? Like, for instance, what if they wholesaled MLS services?
Okay.
Right? And, a lot of this stuff does break down to like the language of how things are structured, right? So is there a way that before they did all this stuff, they structured their relationship with ARMLS or some way where, or they created a separate entity and you're really joining this, but you also get this. And, I mean, I'm just wondering if there was an organizational way of doing this that, and I'm probably answering my own question as I talk through this. It's like, because I think both you and I know to get board of directors to agree on organizational structures or anything like that is kind of like almost impossible,
Good
right?
luck,
So maybe they can't do it. But still, I mean, with a little bit more planning, and again, I'm not saying that they might win, right? They might like actually pull this off. And I mean, there is a situation here, I think also that NAR, just like we talked about before with like Bright and others, they just let this slide because they don't want to like have the black eye, and they'll make it okay right now. But, they're making a bet that people will join anyway.
Right.
Because the structure's already set up there, and anything else just seems, the inertia's already there. So
right.
It's going to be a nothing thing, right? But,
right.
But that's the two things I think of is, could they have done anything structurally or whatever before this? And then what is, how hardcore NAR is going to go at it? It seems hardcore because once the Holy Trinity, as I'm calling it, goes away, I mean, that's a very existential threat to NAR.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So let's touch on that a little bit. My answer is I do not think that there's anything that Phoenix could have done differently. Like, you could dress it up however you want, because fundamentally it comes down to this. Okay. Phoenix Realtors, I think, has about 11,000 members. Okay, I think that's the number that I remember seeing. NAR dues are $200 a year, $201. So that's roughly $2.2 million. Okay. So however you structure this, however you do it, the question comes down to, does Phoenix Realtors submit $2.2 million to NAR? Yes or no?
Right.
Right? And if you're Phoenix Realtors and you try to come up with whatever wholesale MLS, do this, do that, create a separate entity, et cetera, fundamentally it comes down to, are you sending $200 per member to NAR, yes or no? If the answer is no, then you're in violation of the 3-way agreement.
Right.
Right? So that's one of the funny things, like we're dressing it around, like could we, sure, you can with words, but what about the number? Right? What about the actual money that's supposed to go to NAR? Right? That's what's at issue. So no, I don't think there is a way, right, that they could have structured it any other way.
Well, again, you're talking about it. I mean, and I know your technique here. It's like you have to look at like a black and white thing. But are they in violation if because they are? I mean, people can join, armless without being a realtor, right? So that's already in there, right?
That's right.
So it's a little bit, I think, more grayish here because it's not like that 2.2 is going to go away. It could be 1.2.
It
right?
could be.
It's just whatever it is, it's going to be less.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's like a total violation of the agreement. And again, that's where the devil is in the details. Like, we're sending you the money of people that are joining your organization.
Yeah.
But some of them aren't, right? And like, what is the disparity? I mean, is it going to be? It's not going to be all of them.
Well, I mean, I figure 80-20 rule, right? Actually, what I've been going with is 85-15. Like roughly 15% of that 11,000 are actual realtors, right? And I use that number, and I've been bringing it up a number of times. So I'll remind people, right? Because not everyone's been reading me or listening to me for years and years. I've been using that 15% number because that's the typical response rate to a realtor party call for action.
Right.
Right. So I figure in any given association, that 15% are the ones who are like true realtors. They care, they give a shit, they want to be a part of this, right? The other 85% just join because they want the MLS. Right. Now, Phoenix Realtors, to be fair, and Armless as an MLS has had MLS only memberships. Like you don't, right? You just get the MLS, right? And you don't join Phoenix Realtors. You don't join any of the realtors, right? And you're not a realtor. You're basically just a licensee, and you're getting MLS access. Like that has been the case. That's the case in other states. That's a normal accepted thing. So the real issue is if you look at the MLS Choice program that Phoenix Realtors did, it included a bunch of other things that made it possible for someone, a broker and agent in Phoenix, to just join MLS Choice and not join Arizona and NAR.
Forms and whatnot.
And that's one of the most important. They got forms, right? Now, if you just compare, they actually got a lot more. What they got is effectively membership in the local without having to join the state or the national, right? Well, Arizona is $175 a year. NAR is $200 a year. That's a $375 savings for the agent who says, I just want to join the local. And that's where the violation of the 3 agreement comes in. So I'm kind of with NAR on the legal side of this, right? Phoenix is dressing this up like this is not real membership. We're not in violation. It's like, yes, you are. What you're doing is local membership. Like, it's called spade a spade. The issue is what can happen now, right? So the second part is I don't think this is a situation where Phoenix Realtors, fucks around and finds out. I think it's the other way. I think it's NAR fucks around and finds out that in fact there's nothing they can do. I just published.
Well, they're suing it. They can sue them.
They could, and I just published a post about that, right? Like this morning. So by the time this episode goes live, people have read my take on it. What I'm saying is, okay, fine. Let's say you sue NAR and you win. Okay, I'm just going to give them that. You're going to sue and you're actually going to win, right? But the lawsuit has to be a contract claim, right? In other words, that Phoenix is breaching its contract, right? And in a association setting, that contract is a charter. And again, I've not read their charter. I've never actually read like an NAR grant of charter to a local, so I don't know what it looks like. But let's just assume that's the contract. What the contract says is we will abide by, the Constitution, the bylaws of NAR, and blah blah blah. Okay, so you're in breach. So the court says, hey, Phoenix, you're in breach, right? So we're just gonna say NAR wins. Okay, you win. What do you get? In other words, like if you think about a breach of contract, like there are only certain things that could happen from that, right? Like the biggest one is money damages. Like, hey, we had a contract, you breached it, so you owe me.
Well, whatever. They get them back in line is what they get, right? I mean, that's,
So that's
and they send a message. They send a message.
So I'm saying, so you win. Okay, so there's damages and there's injunction. That's about it. That's what I'm getting at, right? because, rescission doesn't apply, reformation doesn't apply, specific performance doesn't apply because there's no specific performance, right? This isn't a contract to build a house, right? This is a contract to stay part of this association forever. So there's no specific, so there's only injunction and damages. All right. Damages, what damages? Right? I don't think NAR can claim any monetary damages from somebody wanting to leave.
Well, they could if this was going on for 9 months and they weren't paying dues during this kind of process,
sure.
Right?
But the way that, the way it works right now is, the local association collects dues once a year, right? Or throughout the year, I guess, a prorated basis, and they're supposed to send the prorated amount down to NAR. My assumption right now is that Phoenix is current. They've paid all of 2025 dues that they've collected to date, and they'll keep sending that on under the contract, right? Because again, Phoenix is not seeing any of that money anyway, so they're not losing anything by sending on NAR dues. Okay, so what other damages, right? It's got to be future revenue, right? So
okay, so as somebody as you that has been kind of very much saying there needs to be a divorce, quote unquote,
yes.
Right? I mean, and is it Bob? What's the CEO's name over there?
Oh God, I don't remember. I saw it on Joel.
Maybe. Anyway, so he's taken the arrows here, right? I mean, if you're saying what you're saying is there's no way of doing this. I mean, how do we?
Andy Fegley is the CEO.
Andy, okay.
Yeah.
How do we? How do you square that circle? Meaning, I mean, so you had this vision forever, and now it seems to be you're saying, well, it's impossible.
What do you mean, vision forever? That's impossible.
Of the separating, right? Of not being part of this holy trinity, right? Of having the MLS and the association divorced, and they all can kind of go their separate ways in a sense, right?
Well, they were sort of separate things. When I said the association MLS divorcing, that's at the local level, right?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
This is the local,
no,
the
that
state,
makes sense.
and the national divorcing. Right?
Yeah.
Which I predicted, right? So it looks like I'm going to get that prediction right, even though all my predictions are guaranteed wrong.
Yeah.
This one I didn't really, I mean, I kind of saw it
national,
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see coming this soon. Right? I didn't see coming this soon. But here's the thing. My gut tells me is, local boards, man, right? I mean, is there any chance that the Phoenix Board of Directors and the CEO of Phoenix Realtors makes this move, takes this step, without a big chunk of their members coming to them and saying, we want out of NAR? Do you know what I'm saying? Right. I don't think there is, which means that there's substantial support among the membership saying, hey, we like the MLS, we like what you're doing, we don't want to be part of NAR. Right?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think anybody's surprised by that. I mean, they've had a bad couple years, right?
For sure. So, so to me, NAR's reaction to this is actually the worst possible outcome. Because this, to me, would be the time where NAR actually needs to go kiss some ass.
Right.
Not kick some ass, right? Like they need to go to Phoenix like, hey, we understand you're unhappy. What can we do, right? Instead, they're like...
you got to believe that those conversations have happened, right?
I don't got to believe that because that's not... Yeah. Based on like the date, the facts that have come out... Hold on. So based on the facts that have come up about how this came about, right, was Christine Hansen, who is the vice president, I think, first vice president, went to Phoenix to some event, like in September, something like that, August, found out about this, and essentially threw a fit. Right? And then, again, according to like news reports, like 10 days later, they get a cease and desist letter. Right? Instead of 10 days later, a delegation of like Nikea Wright and Kevin Sears, they go to Phoenix, take them out, wine and dine them. Hey, what can we do? We know you're not happy with us, right? No. Cease and desist. Right? We're going to punish you. Like, get in line or else kind of thing. And I'm like, yo, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Again, we don't know for sure, but
we don't know for sure. I'm just going by published media reports.
But you understand that in a sense to me, because if that goes away, if they can't bat this down, if they don't get this out of it, I mean, if you start going down that road, it's not a great road. The path is fraught for sure, right? I mean,
NAR's
for
dead.
NAR, yeah,
and NAR will lose 85% of membership within a year or two, right? And what I've written about this is NAR is going to lose this if they expel Phoenix, right? So here are the choices for NAR. Okay, kick Phoenix out. That's the revocation of charter, right? The other one to me is just keep this game going for years through the hearing process, whatever. But if you're Phoenix, just go screw it. We're out. We'll just leave, right? And it turns out any local association can just resign from NAR. Like it's written in the bylaws. Like here's the process. And the process includes half of the membership has to vote to leave.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Right? Now, here's the thing. There's no way they're going to get that vote. Like, when's the last time you heard of all of the members in a realtor association ever voting on anything? I bet you, here's a bet. If Phoenix Realtors sent out a notice to all their members and said, we are going to give $5,000 checks to every single member. Okay. However, 50%, like all members must vote, and the majority of the members who vote must agree that we should give $5,000 to each member. I bet you they can't get 11,000 realtors to vote.
Well, they don't need to get 11,000. They need to get 51.
They get 6,501.
6,500, right?
I bet you they're not going to be able to get 6,500 realtors to vote.
You know, I've been trying to reach realtors most of my adult life. And,
right. So
it's goddamn near impossible. They're not going to pick up the phone, I'll tell you that much.
Exactly. Right.
I don't know. I mean, they could make, it could be a groundswell of shit.
So
I don't know.
Right. So in any event, what I'm saying is that's why I think NAR wins. Right? Because they're not going to be able to get 6,500 votes to leave NAR. Right? Now, what I'm saying is even if that's the case, okay, fine, you win. What is that? What do you have? And in the article I just posted, the thing that I talked about was there was a time, right, not too long ago, like in the mid-20th century, when courts would deny divorces because no-fault divorce wasn't a thing, right? So somebody would come and sue and say, I want a divorce, and the court would be like, nope, sorry, you can't have a divorce, right? And my point is, okay, does that mean that the couple is back to a happy marriage? No.
Court-ordered happy marriage, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? No. So in this situation, let's say the court orders and says, okay, Phoenix, you can't leave. Does it mean Phoenix, okay, well, since the court told us, I guess we better get along. And no, that's not going to happen. We know this, right?
Right.
So to me, one way or the other, they're out.
Yeah.
And once they're out, one way or the other.
The Phoenix Association of Real Estate Professionals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And my point is, once they are out, then you're going to have this cascade effect where NAR will lose 85% of the membership within a couple of years, unless they do something different. Right. And the last time we talked, the mechanism for that is pretty straightforward, right? If Phoenix is able to go off and set up Phoenix Associate of Real Estate Professionals, and every one of their members now saves $375 a year in state and national dues that they don't have to pay, right? That means that all of the other associations locally around Phoenix had better do the same. Otherwise, they're going to lose 85% of members to Phoenix, right?
Right. Unless they make some sort of other value proposition.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm saying if nothing changes from today and it's just $375 saved, 85% of those people do not care whether they can call themselves realtors or not. Right? That brand is meaningless. So they have to do the same thing. Okay, so now they do the same thing. Then they stop paying NAR. They're $200. You know what I mean? It goes that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once Phoenix does that, how long before Tucson has to go along and do the same?
Right. Well,
right?
that is gonna, if that happens, that's a monumental thing
Right.
to happen.
Right.
NAR would have to pivot in their strategy
That's
some
right.
way.
That's right.
Which maybe is a good segue here of like,
Absolutely.
if you're NAR, what do you do?
Right.
How
Let's
do
talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I know you're a much bigger fan of NAR than I am. I think that's fair. You've been tend to defend them and think the best of them.
Well, it wouldn't be a good podcast if we agreed on everything, as they say, right?
And here's the thing: like, I actually would like to somehow see what I've been calling the realtor movement, which could be NAR. I just don't. I think the current leadership is no good, but there's like stuff I want to save. So let's do this. If you're consulting it with NAR, what could they do different? What new value proposition could NAR come up with? We're going to leave the states out of it for a time.
Yeah. I know.
As NAR. What could get someone to join NAR voluntarily?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, and I think we circle back to these kind of discussions away. So some of the stuff I'll say is probably something I've said in the past, but if you think about like this industry, it's very personality driven, right? And it has been for a while at least. You've got Dave Liniger over at Remax, and
Sure.
You understand as this maverick guy that started this agent centric kind of thing. You have Gary Keller again, very a big personality.
Right.
Glenn Kelman, another type of
Robert
person,
Reffkin,
right? Robert Reffkin, of that kind of thing. Very personality driven. Richard Smith back in the day, and Sherry Chris, and all these other people that have been around this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just think that with as much real estate means, and this goes back to like what our conversation with Professor Kaplan, about what housing is in this country. It's part of the American dream, right? That gravitas that it has, not only in the fabric of our society in a sense and culturally, but 13 or 30% of the GDP. I mean, that kind
Sure.
of thing.
Yeah.
You need I just think that the NAR would have a bigger name, running that place, right? Okay. Again, this is all personality driven. So, I've thrown some things out there. If Michelle Obama
Sure.
came out and said, I'm in charge of NAR and my mandate is to, or solidify the contract of the American dream for every people. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in helping me do that, this movement, I'm playing off your movement type of thing.
Sure.
Join me.
Sure.
Let's get people let's get people creating homes.
Sure.
Right, and then you've just really, turned the whole narrative of everything with that type of personality, with that type of leader. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of like who. It brings together housing. It's not like Ben Carson, but I mean, maybe for some people it is because he was in charge of HUD.
Sure.
But that type of person, that kind of big name, like that, when that person goes to Congress, holy shit, okay, it's fucking this guy or this girl, whoever it is, that brings that kind of thing and can bring all their friends, to the table, right? I mean, all their...
What do you mean to the table?
Well... anybody that has that name has a lot of connections too.
Okay.
Right? Has a different social sphere that they got their Illuminati fucking, library card, right? I mean, they're running in those kind of circles, so they can bring, and they have their own networks and they have their own staff that, anybody, it's a big name as that is like, they've got an infrastructure to kind of make shit happen, right?
Okay.
So to me, for me, it's like, and again, Nakia, I don't know her that well. She's might be the right person for the right job right now. But if you're telling me to kind of open up my head and do what I would do as a consultant on it, I'd be trying to find, And I hate that I'm kind of sounding like this, and I guess I'll just cop to it. It seems everything is like this. You need a celebrity. We have Donald Trump, the former guy from The Apprentice, and you have, all these guys that 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 were celebrities or getting into politics or whatever for that kind of namesake. And I don't mean to put it in that kind of realm. I would want this person to be more maybe from the politics side or the private sector of like, having a charity or something that they were about that had to do with housing, right? To do that. Okay. That would be my BHAG on it, right? Would to be find that kind of leader.
So I'm gonna give you that. Okay. Let's just say, in fact, forget Michelle, Barack. Okay.
Sure.
Comes out of retirement and he becomes CEO of NAR. Okay. And to your point, he brings all the network, all of that. He brings all of it. Okay. Out of the 1.6 million current realtors, how many would pay $200 a year just to join an organization that Barack runs? Like, what's the value benefit? Like, what's the value prop for me as a realtor? Like, I'm a working agent, right? I heard Barack Obama is now the CEO of NAR. Okay, like, that's cool. Why am I paying you money to join that organization?
Right. So there's two things here, right? I think you got to put this in two stages. Right now, the organization, in my belief, is like it's suffering from the emperor has no clothes syndrome, as we talked about, right? People are just like unsure of like, what does this organization even mean anymore? They've lost the lawsuit. We can't do commission anymore.
Right.
The PR stuff, the sexual harassment, everything else. So the first stage is like, okay, we need to shore up and solidify we're legit and do that. I think, having a name like a Michelle or Barack.
Sure.
Oh, fuck, man.
Sure.
Oh, shit. That's all you had to say. He's
real
in charge
player.
now?
Yep.
Okay. Instant fucking, instant kind of like legitness, right?
Sure.
Okay. So that shores things up. And then again, maybe you have to look at it holistically where, he's going to come to, again, like Professor Kaplan talked about, part of our whole thing is we're hiring people for to get rid of this NIMBYism or something, right? I mean, we're expanding. You want to join NAR? It's not just being a realtor. We need feet on the ground at local boards, at at cities. We need, I mean, again, I'm just borrowing off your movement. What that means to me is a movement kind of thing here, right?
Right.
Of doing that.
Right.
And setting a tone like, okay, well, shit, this is, I'm not just going to trade shows and I'm not doing this. This guy's going to try to like, pave the way, way more tactical than, some fucking secret super PAC that I'm fucking, shoveling money to, right? It's like, no, it's like, it's, the damn thing's got a logo, right? And it's a cool one, right?
Here's what I mean. I'm with you. And here's the thing. Think about it. Like in all of our conversations, what I've been saying is I think NAR and the realtor world, the association, should voluntarily embrace the idea of we're going to go to 10% of current membership on purpose, right?
That's
and that
crazy.
10% is going to be activist and driven, blah, 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 right? And the value that they would get from it is that the realtor brand now means something. Okay. And I bring that up because, okay, like in the gun world, right? I'm a member of the NRA. Okay. I get no benefit from that. There's zero value proposition from me being part of the NRA. I mean, I know they claim like some discounts or whatever. Like, I don't give a crap. Like, that's not why I'm joining the NRA, right? I joined the NRA. Well, NRA is the wrong example.
I was going to say.
I joined them because I need to be a member in order to access a range near me, right? So that's kind of like the control of the MLS.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
A better one might be to say Gun Owners of America or Second Amendment Foundation, right? I joined those guys because I'm supporting the mission, not because I get any benefit from it, right? And the point I'll make is the percentage of people who join for that reason is minuscule, always. If it's voluntary, it's minuscule. Because you are relying on those people who genuinely care about the mission and want to support the mission, and they're going to join and contribute and whatever with zero expectation of a value proposition. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm 100% with you. We should get a real player, all that. We should reform governance. We should do all that. But fundamentally, what we're talking about is a switch to no more of like a value proposition, right? Now it's entirely voluntary. And if it goes entirely voluntary, we're probably looking at somewhere between 15 and maybe 20% of the 1.6 million who voluntarily say, you know what, I support your mission. I love what you're doing. Here's my money. That's what I'm getting at. And that part of here's my money, I'm not sure they could get $200 a person for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're thinking about it as something that started ground up. I mean, again, I think it's two phases. You take advantage of there's 1.5 million realtors now. You shore those up to be, you know what? I really didn't think about NAR before. Now I'm thinking about it. Take my money.
Right. So
and I'm thinking you could actually expand that, right? You're thinking going down to 10%. I'm thinking that person, if they do their job right, they're going to get that, shore up that 1.5, and then they're going to add to that, right? Okay. Because there's going to be other gigs in there, other ways that you can contribute to overall home ownership, the American dream, by being part of this organization.
Okay, so we're basically talking about a religious movement.
Well, I mean, you said movement. That was your term.
No, I know, but
so I am. I'm taking. Right. I'm stealing from your wording. The realtor movement, right? So it becomes this, religious movement, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
but the clear
cultural movement.
Yeah, the clear point there is there's no value proposition.
Sure, there is.
What? What's the benefit?
Increased fucking home ownership.
Hold on, I get it, man. But think of it in contrast to companies, organizations that provided an actual value proposition, right? Like, MLS.
That's not an actual value proposition. Is increasing home ownership?
No. An actual value proposition should be like food. Would be like money.
Well, it is money. If I can expand more homes to be sold, and I make money when homes are bought and sold,
I would get that if I'm not a member.
That's a good thing. Well,
it's a free rider problem. So again, this is so fascinating. Same thing with like Gun Owners of America's Second Amendment Foundation, right? Whatever they have like 50,000 members. It's tiny, right? But they go and they litigate and they lobby for better gun laws, right? When they succeed, guess what? The guy down the street who doesn't belong, but he owns a gun, he benefits.
Right.
And we get nothing from him because there's no value proposition. He's not a believer, but he benefits. Same thing here. Let's say NAR does convert to this sort of a movement, right? Okay. And they go out and they lobby and they get housing and they get increased transactions. Okay. I'm just a licensee. I'm not a member. I don't pay him anything. Guess what? I benefit too. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, okay. I understand what you're saying. So I guess the way I would counter that is that, no, that is part of their job as that organization, is that they have to inspire beyond that kind of, as you say, that kind of, very religious base to say, you are benefiting here, but, they have to come up with messaging to get as many people on board. And again, they're starting with 1.5 million realtors.
Sure.
Right? So that's a pretty good start, right? That's, way up from, when I started the business, it's almost double the amount of realtors were in the early 90s, right? So it's their job is to kind of shore up right now and then keep and then possibly expand that if they can, right? So I would agree with what you're saying if this is, again, starting from scratch. Okay, we're going to start this and blah, 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 but they're not starting there, right? I mean, they have the infrastructure now to kind of build upon and go to do that, right?
Sure.
So,
but you got to offer them something. So what I'm getting is off the 1.6 million, right? We'll just say 80% instead of 85, right? Because it's easier to do that, right? So what's 80% of 1.6 million? Like 320,000, okay? 320,000 of the 1.6 million are those true believers, right? They believe in the lobbying. They believe in the mission of NAR.
Again, we have 1.5 million people paying now, and they're not true believers.
That's my point. Out of the 1.6 million, only about 300,000 are those people who are like, yes, I voluntarily would support what NAR is doing, even if I get no personal benefit.
Well, so you're saying, I guess what you're also adding to this is that you're saying that this three-way agreement goes away.
Right.
Right. So that then they have to start again from scratch.
That's the conversation. Because when Phoenix does what they're doing, what Phoenix is saying is, we are going to deliver real value proposition to you, the local agent.
Right.
because you're going to get access to the MLS, you're going to get access to forms, you're going to get access to Lockbox, you're going to get access to tools that you need to run your business, right? Okay, NAR doesn't have that anymore. The three-way agreement meant that because I, as an agent, need MLS forms and lockboxes, I have to join my local. When I joined my local, they were forcing me to also join Arizona and national, right?
Right.
If that goes away, then
but
wait, hold on. Then let's just take the Phoenix example. I'm a licensee, right? I go join Phoenix with the MLS Choice Program, $325 a year, right? What I'm saying is, what would NAR have to offer me to want to join them for $200 a year?
Yeah. So I guess in my mind, what they're doing is they're not only showing up the members, but they're showing up the associations, right? So the associations wake up one day, Michelle and Obama's in charge. They're like, oh shit, right on. Okay, now I see you. Right. We're in. Okay. We're in.
Right.
Right. So it keeps that infrastructure in place. It's not going to where, that construct that we have now has gone away. I'm thinking they have to do this to keep that construct alive and well, because that's going to get them there, right? Because, they have, with that construct in place, they have, they're not going to have the problem of people seeing value, of associations seeing value, of MLSs seeing value, right? I mean,
I think they would. So, okay, let's just, again, this is all purely hypothetical, but we can use them as examples, right? So Phoenix says we're out. We have MLS Choice, right? Or just Phoenix Realtor membership. You get access to ARM list. You get access to forms. You get continuing at the local level, whatever, right? Scottsdale Realtors like, hey, since Michelle Obama is the CEO of NAR, we're going to stay in it. When you join us, you have to pay an additional $375 above what Phoenix is paying.
Yeah.
And you think all 9,000 of Scottsdale Realtors would be like, awesome. Since Michelle is the CEO, I'm happy to pay the $375.
Well, I mean, it's got, again, I think that the start is having a name up there. And then that person has to deliver some sort of messaging
I'm agreeing.
To them to say, I'm here now, things are going to change. But here, in my first 90 days of fucking being the new CEO of NAR, this is what we're going to do. And hopefully that messaging will keep everybody in line and do that.
Greg, my only point is messaging is not value.
Well, no, I mean, you got to execute. You got to execute, right?
But messaging is not value. The value is like concrete, like self-interested. I'm going to join that because I'm going to get this out of it, right? It's the Costco membership, right? I'm willing to pay Costco because I'm getting a value proposition.
I understand, but I mean, there is something to. Okay, I was skeptical before. They've made this big change. And again, you're right, but I can be inspired.
Right. I'm agreeing.
And I can go, you know what? I will give them my money this year. We'll see how it goes. Right. That's all I think that person could do. Then they have to execute on that.
Right. I'm agreeing. And like inspiration, absolutely. And believe me, I would love nothing more than to see.
And then what they deliver is in Phoenix, this one plot which they were only selling 2-acre lots on. Now we can build more houses on there.
Sure.
Oh wow,
sure.
That's because of this guy, of this kind of stuff. I mean, you start to do those kind of things, right? I mean, you have to deliver on something for sure.
From a selfish standpoint, I would get that benefit even if I'm not paying NAR.
Right,
that's
but
all
again,
I'm pointing out.
you have to inspire. There's got to be some inspiration there for sure.
Right, and I'm 100% on board. Like yes,
but and again, they would, but again. You're talking about what if they can keep the 1.5 million realtors, they're ahead of the game, right? I mean, but they can build from there. They're not starting from scratch.
So your assumption essentially is that 80% of the 1.6 million would be so inspired that they would just keep paying the additional $300.
They're paying now.
I know, but they don't want to.
Right. So you have to say to them, "I hear you.
Right.
Here's the fucking new guy.
Right.
Holy shit.
Right.
Okay. All right. Hell, that's all you had to say. Now I'm going to put my money in. Let's see what happens."
You really think that's
right?
going to happen?
Well, again, without a name, I don't know.
I'm just saying human nature, man. Just think about human nature. If you got
this is an election, right? I mean, do we really think Biden was going to deliver on all his promises? Do we think Trump is going to? No, it's just it is a machination to go there, and hopefully they can pull it off.
Greg, my point is, if there's like money that you're forced to pay today, and then tomorrow you don't have to pay it, right?
Well, okay, so I would, I mean, and again, I hope I'm not like just discounting, it's some people's kind of like what their living expenses are. But I mean, if we were talking about $5,000 a year, $3,000 a year, I could see what you're saying, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about $200 a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that a month? Right. That's
less than $20 a month.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not like this. I'm willing to bet $20 a month to see if this is going to happen. Okay. If I get a little bit of benefit, that's great. Will I get $20 out of it? Probably. Right. I mean, but if it was like $1,000 or $2,000 a month, I don't think so.
What's the $20 worth of benefit you get from NAR membership today?
Again, this is all part of another kind of thing that goes here, right? They have to come up with some other things there, right?
No, I get it, man. Like, I think what you're trying to pass off inspiration as a value proposition, and it's not. It's just not. Inspiration.
Well, you're trying to pass off to me that $200 a year is such a burden on people
that
they're going to tell them to go fucking pound sand. I don't think so.
$20 a year, right? Say it's $20 a year, but I get nothing for it. Why would I spend it?
Well, again, I don't think anybody would argue there's something you're going to get there, right? I mean, it's advocacy and all the things that they've been doing.
But
now
if I don't have to pay it because I'm going to get the benefits of it anyway.
Yeah.
Like NRA membership is $40 a year. Okay. It's nothing. It's bupkis, right? There are something like 60 million gun owners in the U.S. How many have joined NRA?
Well, I mean, lately, it's funny you say that because I was just thinking about this. It's like you don't see a lot of. I remember back when I was a kid, and even later that you saw a lot of NAR stickers.
NAR stickers or NRA stickers?
NRA stickers.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it's like nowadays, it's like I can't remember the last time
you don't really
I saw an NRA sticker on any car out there.
Right.
They just don't.
Point.
Yeah.
That's my point is like something like 8 million people joined the NRA out of 60 million gun owners because they don't have to. And it's $40 a year. But it's $40 a year. Like, I don't get any benefit out of it. Why would I spend it?
Well, you got to go to a gun club, you said.
Well, that's why I have to do it, which is very similar to, NAR membership being required in order to access the MLS, right? It's very similar to that. But let's put it this way. If my gun range tomorrow said you no longer have to NRA member, I would drop NRA membership like in a heartbeat, right? So that's my point. I'm agreeing. I think the future realtor to me is voluntary, right, and out of inspiration, not out of a value proposition. However, the conversation we're having right now is there an actual value proposition that NAR could come up with? That somebody who doesn't care about the mission, doesn't give a shit about any of that, says, oh, wait a minute, you're offering that for $200 a year? I'm in. Is there something they could do?
Just to level set here.
Yeah.
They've been very successful and seem to be because the last number I saw, they had a 1.3 drop in membership, big fucking whoopee.
Yeah.
So they've been very successful convincing people that their current value proposition is worth that money.
Which is the MLS.
Well, I mean, in some places it's the MLS, but not everywhere, right?
It's just about every place.
The top by Thompson Estates and things like that.
Yeah,
right?
Just about every place.
So okay, I'll give you. So it's with the MLS,
right?
So it's in their best inherent kind of thing to do is to keep that construct
alive and
viable and alive and well, right?
Agreed.
So
agreed.
All I'm saying is that that's the way they win is to keep the construct alive. How do I keep that construct alive and maybe expand upon it?
You can't. Because Phoenix is going to destroy that construct.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, as you said, that's
of course we'll see.
Path.
Like, we don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, dude, again, just think about incentives, like human nature, right? 80% of the people who are members of Scottsdale do not give a shit about anything realtor. They just join to get access to armless and forms. Okay, Phoenix is going to like, guess what, y'all? You can have armless and forms for $300 instead of $700. 80% are going to leave and go to Phoenix, unless Unless Scottsdale says, hey, guess what? We're also going to let you do that.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's just, come on, dude. Like human nature.
I just don't, again, there's, we talk about this all the time on this podcast, inertia, right?
Of course, inertia is strong.
It's not that big of an amount where it's going to be like I said, if it was fucking, I'm saving $5,000, fucking absolutely tomorrow. This is a fucking bump in the road for them, right?
If it was just the money. But if it's money, and oh, by the way, now you're no longer subject to this fucking regulation.
What regulation are you talking about here?
Code of ethics, all the realtor rules,
nobody.
all that jazz.
It's like you said, they're not even engaged in that anyway. They don't even know about that shit.
So I'm agreeing. My point is, being a member of NAR gives you very little other than rules, other than burdens. What's the benefit you get? Right? Like concrete selfish benefit you get from being a member of NAR. You get rental car discounts. I think you get some lodging discounts, right? Which
advocacy.
Is all, but advocacy is not a benefit, is what I'm getting at.
It's not a benefit.
Advocacy is the mission. Right?
Yeah. Well, advocacy, I mean, again, I don't think it's all the reason they're still alive is because of the MLS. Am I saying that out loud? Think about that a bit.
So, all I was getting at was this, and I don't know that you and I necessarily have the answer, right? But it's an interesting question if you're NAR, right? Say Michelle comes in, fine. Michelle Obama's the new CEO, okay? She's in a meeting with Kevin Sears and the rest of the executive leadership team. And they have to come up with a value proposition, not a mission, not an inspiration, but like a product or a service that they're selling to an licensee who does not give a fuck about any of that other stuff to say that is worth $200 a year. What could that be?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Right?
Somebody should be thinking about that.
Somebody should be thinking about that. And I don't know what that could be, right? Quite frankly. That, like, what does an agent actually need to do business? Right? Is it like
health insurance?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's health insurance, right? So for $200, like, we're going to give you health coverage. Maybe it's that, right?
Yeah.
Like, but that's why I'm getting, like, to me, where this whole thing is headed is, and they are still operating on this notion that they're in charge or they're the boss and they could, like, threaten Phoenix and, you know, flex their muscle and be like, you must attend this hearing or else. I keep asking, like, what if they don't? Say Phoenix and the CEO, they just blow off this, like, meeting. They just blow it up, say, yeah, we're not coming. Okay, now what?
Right.
Since you didn't show up, we're going to revoke your charter. Great, that's what we've been asking for all along. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah. God, you're going to punish me by giving me what I want? Like, so that's not going to be it. It's like, what? Okay, we're going to sue you. Cool, we're not going to defend it. You win. Now what? We're going to injunction you to not leave. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show up at NAR annual with giant signs saying Ikea smells bad or something. Like, we're going to just be a real pain in the ass so you don't want us around. Like, you can't force a couple to stay together through the law, right?
Right.
So I'm saying you got to come up with some benefit. You got to come up with, look, we're going to let you go. Go. You want to go? Go. But here's why you might want to come back. Here's this amazing, wonderful thing we're providing that you want to come back. And I agree with you. Like inspiration and mission, that's important, but it's typically important to a very small minority of the people. For the vast majority who are just concerned about making a living, like that ain't going to do it. There's got to be some concrete, measurable benefit that they get. And as yet, NAR doesn't have that. Now, here's the thing. They've been trying for at least as long as I've been in the industry to come up with that. RPR was an attempt to come up with that, right? There was a whole lot of like presidential advisory groups talking about we need a national MLS. You know, there was a whole bunch of shit that tried to do. It's just that none of those worked out, right?
Yeah, Realtor.com.
Realtor.com, right?
Yeah.
Like none of those really worked out. So I'm like, okay, so what is that benefit? The NAR at this stage with 1.6 million today, with the money, the power that they have today, what is the actual like benefit that they could provide? And honestly, I couldn't come up with one. Right? And I couldn't come up with one for 15 years, which is why I went with, you know what? It needs to be more of an inspiration church thing. Right? And if that means that the membership at NAR goes down to 300,000, hey man, 300,000 is a big organization.
Right.
That's a big organization, right? And these are your 300,000 true believers who really believe in lobbying, who believe in advocacy, who believe in those things. I'm like, do that. Instead of trying to hold on to the 1.3 million who don't want to be with you, right? So that's kind of what I started thinking about. And this is just a general thing. Imagine if NAR, the state associations, the locals, all across the realtor world, right? Instead of so much attention being paid to how do we hold on to people who don't want to be with us, and start changing your mind to how do we hold on to people who do want to be with us? What goodies can we provide to the people who do want to be with us versus how do we force people who don't want to be with us to stay with us? Right?
Yeah.
And I think Phoenix has figured that out, at least at the local level, which is what people want from us is MLS and forms. We're going to give them MLS and forms. Boom. Okay, what can the state do? What can the national do? Provide something where people want to be with you instead of forcing them to stay with you, right? And I think the reason why we can't come up with something like off the top of our heads, and no one really has yet, is because they're out of practice. Realtor leadership is out of practice of thinking about what can we provide where people would want to join us. Because they haven't had to do that for 100 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're doing commercials and other kind of things they're trying to put out there.
Right.
But no, it's a mental exercise for sure.
Yeah.
My thing is I'm always thinking about it from a tech standpoint, but I'm not sure it's a tech thing, right?
And who knows? Maybe it is tech. Maybe it's NR developed some AI engine that's amazing, and only members can get it. Yeah. Okay, but it's something, right? At least that's a value. At least that's you want to join us voluntarily because we're going to give you this, right? And it's just a way of thinking that every business owner has had to do, right? Because what do you have to do to convince someone to give you their money?
Yeah, no, it's tough. Right?
It's hard.
It's tough.
And Realtor World has not had to deal with that for 60 years. So now the challenge is going to 2020. Like this year, I think associates have to have those meetings, right? Hey man, you're gonna do board of directors meetings. Stop talking about this member. We like to represent the member. I know, we get it. The real things you guys have to do is figure out what can we offer that people are willing to pay us for voluntarily. Right? And they're not as yet doing that, but I think this is the year where people are going to start doing that. I don't envy any of the people in their leadership. I don't know who they're bringing into the strat planning, but boy, this is the question. What can you figure out to offer people while you have this marketing channel, 1.6 million, right? To say, hey, you should join us. You should keep giving us money because we're giving you this, right? They got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I thought you might be able to come up with something.
I like this conversation because it's a good framing of these issues, and again, I think you're right. Everything before was on a subtraction thing. Oh, this is going to happen if you don't, and rather than a positive additive thing, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll leave it there. I think that's going to be the conversation for this year. I think there's going to be a theme that comes up over and over again.
I think you're right.
Right. But everyone needs to start thinking, okay, it's not about forcing people to join you. It's about attracting them to join you. Okay, what can you do to attract them to join you voluntarily? Yeah. Inspiration is absolutely going to play a role. But to the extent that people are thinking about value proposition, has to be, what will they voluntarily pay us money for? Right? And you know what? Go ask your brokers, because they're all in business and they all had to figure that out their entire career. Go ask your tech vendors, because they've been having to figure that out their entire career, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to leave it there. Fascinating first show. Welcome back. Hey, an announcement. Since we decided we are going forward this year, I think we decided we're going to try and do a monthly live stream episode, because the last couple we've done has been really cool. Where we're able to interact with you all, the audience more. So The first one I think we have scheduled for the 17th of January, which is a Friday at 10 a.m. We're going to promote this
10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m. Pacific, but what better place to promote than here? So I don't know. Maybe we should do an ad read and start doing like, hey, January 17th.
Yeah.
But let's just wanted to let you guys know it will be 10 a.m. There will be more information available, but it will be a live stream.
And then that live stream will be recorded, and that'll be the podcast that's released the next week on the regular schedule.
That's right. So if you want to chat with us and argue with us, come join. And maybe that live stream, the topic should be value propositions. What can you come up with?
I like that.
That might be fun. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Ciao.